Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to an interesting entry here for a film which has been around for quite a long time, has a huge following, and at the time of this video, next year it will hit its 50th anniversary, which is for the 1975 film, The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, this one is starring Susan Sarandon, Barry Bostwick, and Tim Curry, as well as many others in this cast of characters, including Meatloaf, who has a small role in this. But what is this film about? And, well, before we dive into kind of where it came from, where it's been, where it's going, let's just start with the synopsis, which is as follows. A newly engaged couple have a breakdown in an isolated area and must seek shelter at the bizarre residence of Dr. Frank-n-Furter. So, this is mainly for, this video is mainly for those who are unfamiliar with the film, who still hear it mentioned from time to time, even seeing it advertised as playing at their local theater, and really have no idea about it. Why is this thing still around? So first off, I'm not an expert on this film or the play that inspired it. This is just information that I've come across, my history with it in a way, and a brief explainer of what to expect should you decide to check this one out, as there are many longer and more detailed videos out there that go into much more about the history of Rocky Horror. So let's start off with The Rocky Horror Show, which was the play created by Richard O'Brien and put into production in 1973. And looking at Wikipedia, it seems to have been in production every year in some city or another ever since. I even just finally got to see it at Job Site Theater in Tampa not too long ago, which was an amazing production and was a lot of fun. Because I had only ever seen the movie when it first hit home video back in 1990, and that was my only experience with it. It was great to finally get out there and see the stage show. But yes, this started as a very strange play, which gets a lot of inspiration from like 1930s through 60s sci-fi and horror films, and is a musical, a rock musical. So then in 1975, it was turned into a feature film starring many of those who were involved in the initial play's production. So that initial release, though, did not do that well, and it was pulled from many of the theaters that they had scheduled to play it due to just the lack of turnout. Really wasn't a good time. But then the next year, at around April Fool's Day, an event was set up with Rocky Horror Picture Show being the surprise movie that they were showing, and later it kind of, eventually seeped out for special midnight showings to watch this really bizarre film. Now, before we go into what those midnight showings are like, here's just some more info about the film itself. So, as the synopsis says, it's about this engaged couple who are going to meet up with their high school teacher, since they had met at his exam, to tell him about their new engagement and to celebrate. They get caught with a flat. Well, how about that? On their way, one late rainy night to go and see him, and they approach this old mansion to see if they could use their phone, just to say where they are and then go back to the car. They don't really want to be any worry, but that's where all the trouble starts, because they walked into this very strange party, a celebration of sorts at this mansion with a very interesting group of people. This party is to celebrate the scientific breakthrough from Dr. Frank-n-Furter, this character who's similar to like Frankenstein in a way in this story, except instead of simply reanimating a corpse, he's made a man for himself. Now, throughout the night, there are these sexual escapades, a weird dinner party, an unexpected guest, and dealing with this man he created, Rocky. So what this really boils down to is that it's a very silly 30s through 60s sci-fi horror spoof with these Frankenstein aspects mixed in with a very free, open, and sexually exciting lifestyle set to a rock opera. Very silly, but it still does have some emotion behind it, some interesting characters, it's still a lot of fun. It's sci-fi with some of those aspects of horror within it as well, and this music just really kind of brings you along for this entire journey. This really bizarre long night as this, spooky, at this spooky old mansion and this crazy cast of characters. The energy never really dips. It's always a lot of fun. I think that's one of the reasons why I'd always really enjoyed it, because there's lots of camp thrown in. It definitely doesn't take itself too seriously, and the energy, like I said, never slows down. I think all of those random aspects that I just kind of, rattled through there, jumbled together, are why I really enjoy this one. So, for instance, when it comes to musicals, what I like about this one are that the lyrics are very clear and they tell the story well, and the songs are really catchy, and they have this great rock sound to the genre they're using to try to keep that high energy the entire time, which fits with the celebration that our leads Brad and Janet have stumbled into. Silly, campy, creepy, lots of sci-fi, horror aspects mixed in, and a highly sexual nature, makes this one a lot of fun and worth revisiting again and again. Okay, now that the meat of the film aspect of it is out there, so you know story-wise what to expect with this, let's talk about the release and why it is still out there. As I said, it initially failed and was re-released eventually as midnight showings. Through that, the audiences grew. These audiences would not so much make fun of the film as they were making fun of some of the characters and the things that they're going through. Shouting jokes during the film which would go back and forth, such as shouting a line which would match with the next line of dialogue happening on the screen, so it looks like this joke going back and forth or the other way around. Such as when the character Brad is introduced, people shouting that he's an asshole, while shouting that his fiancée Janet is a slut, just for the fun of it. But there's a lot of this in the entire film, as well as using water pistols when it's raining, holding newspapers over their heads from that, throwing rice during a wedding scene, wearing birthday hats for Rocky's little birthday celebration dinner. There's a lot going on, almost like a Halloween party in a way. But with all that in mind, you may understand why this film is going on and on and on over the years, with various live casts running this show. They are running the prompts, they are dressed up as the characters, they're either speaking or lip-syncing the dialogue and singing along as well. It basically had become over the years a big midnight party event, with this film being center stage. So if you were to head out one night to see a midnight showing of this, you may feel a little bit in over your head, but don't worry, you won't be dead. And that's okay, because just don't tell anybody there that it's your first time, because you being a virgin, they may want to pull you up onto the stage or in front of the screen to participate in some little antics that they sometimes plan. But just know that it will be loud. Because aside from the props and the jokes in general, the jokes have been built out over the years to where every cast seems to have wanted to add their own entries to the dialogue. So even if you do know a good deal of it, it can be a bit overwhelming considering how much has been added over the years. There's actually been some cases where I've seen some performances where it sounds just like a long and constant yelling spree, where it's hard to even hear what that original joke is or what the response is from the screen, because it's just constant yelling. Things can get loud and exciting, and they stay that way. After all, it is more of a party at that point. Now, I will say that different casts perform better than others. It's just, you know, your opinion, which one you like the most. So you may have a bad experience with one cast that you don't really like as much, while there might be another one that the jokes are a bit more clear, the dialogue is easier to follow, and so forth. But, you know, I've never really tracked down which casts perform which, you know, which ones I've enjoyed, which ones I haven't. But I will say that the one here in Tampa around Halloween, there is a big event. That's the one that is my favorite if I am going to go out to one of these live shows. But anyways, to wrap things up, the entire point of this video is to quickly familiarize yourself with what Rocky Horror Picture Show is if you've never gotten around to seeing it, as next year you're likely to hear even more talk about it as it hits its 50th anniversary. Because even with all this stuff that I said, how crazy it can get, even if you're just watching it at home, it's more than worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, thanks for checking out this latest video here for Rocky Horror Picture Show from 1975. And to recap, this is based on a play by Richard O'Brien from 1973, which has been in production in various cities pretty much ever since. The film initially did not do that well, but was re-released as a midnight showing, which they've turned into these loud parties celebrating the film, enacting scenes in front of the screen, using props, and yelling out jokes. However, you can still just watch this one at home if you like. Now, of course, I have the Blu-ray of it. I think this is I forget how many versions of it I've bought over the years. This is the 35th anniversary one, and I know there'll probably be a 50th anniversary one next year, which I do plan on purchasing. But if you do want to check it out on the small screen before deciding if you want to see it on the big screen, or if you enjoy it and you want to, you know, see a little bit about that and understand, is it going to be worth seeing the play? The play does have some different musical numbers, a couple of different scenes. It's definitely worth making it out to see it if you can. But as for the film itself, it is available on paid rental currently. Every now and then it does pop up on another streaming service, but like I said, I got it on Blu-ray, which those Blu-rays are pretty cheap if you just want to bite the bullet and pick one up. Anyways, that's all I've got for this entry. Thanks for coming by and for sticking around to the end. Be sure to like and subscribe if you are not already subscribed, and I will see you in the next one.